right, and welcome back to the Doepfer A101-2 low-pass gate demonstration. Last time we did a brief overview of what we're going to be demonstrating in these upcoming videos, and we even showed you a little bit of a taste of how this module behaves in the low-pass mode or the filter mode. And of course there are two videos way back that I did. So if you're interested in those, have a look. Just do a search for Doepfer A101 filtering, and that should bring it up. Or just check out my YouTube page as well. But this time around, we're going to be looking at something a little bit different. We're going to be looking at this module acting as a VCA. So let's start out by flipping over to VCA mode and prepare our sound source. We're going to be using a VCO right over here. We're going to be taking a square wave and going into here. And before we do that, though, I want to just review shortly what a VCA is. For those of you who don't know, VCA stands for Voltage Controlled Amplifier. And that's going to allow us to turn up the volume of an input that's going to be going into here, or turning down the volume of an input going into here. The voltage control part of that is going to allow us to send a voltage from a module. In our case, it's going to be the LFO over here. That's going to allow us to change that without actually standing here and manually tweaking it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. First, we're going to hear our signal dry. This time, let's do a saw wave. So I'm patching into a saw wave. And I'm going to patch into our mixer just so we can hear what our sound source should sound like before it's amplified. Okay, so there is our sound source. Okay, so I'm going to unpatch that. And now that we have an idea of what that sounds like, I'm going to let you now hear it through the amplifier. So let's take our signal, saw wave, and then patch it into our audio in here. There we go. And then we're going to take the audio out from here into here. Now, one thing to note about this is we're not going to, for the most part, hear that much of a tone color change. Because that's one thing VCAs do not do, is change the tone of your signal. Although that could be argued, you know, the electronics within these modules do to a certain extent sometimes act as a coloring type device, so to speak. But for the most part, the frequencies from the original signal should be retained when you go into your VCA and then out to your mixer. So we're going to patch it and hear what we hear. So here we go. So there is our A101-2 acting as a VCA. If you remember back what our resonance dial did in the filtering demo, I'm going to sort of bring that down. You can see that there's actually no resonance going on. There's no harshness whatsoever here. And according to what the manual says, this resonance dial now, while it's in VCA mode, is only acting as a control for the overall loudness of the signal. So you have control over the incoming loudness here at the level dial, so I could bring up the level going into here, but I could also adjust the amplitude, which is the A, and the F/A. I can bring it up, I can bring it down. And there you go. So that is our voltage controlled amplifier. So as far as manual control goes, that's your primary control right there. It's going to allow you to bring up the signal and down the signal. Now, to get a nice little tremolo kind of effect going, we're going to take our LFO over here and we're going to patch it into one of the CVs here. I'm going to choose to patch it into CV2 because I find in my uses anyway that it's usually the most useful. because I can adjust the amount of modulation coming in. So I'm going to take wave from over here. Let's start with a sine wave. And we're going to go into CV2. And we don't hear any change whatsoever to our signal because the CV level is all the way down. Now, as I start to bring this up, we should start to hear the frequency of our LFO start to affect the amplitude. So here that comes. So there we are. A sine wave being fed into CV number 2 of our low pass gate, and then patched out from the audio out to our mixer, and in effect it's bringing the volume up, down, up, down, up, down. You get the idea. Okay, and I can increase the frequency here. Up the control voltage number 2 to increase the amount of modulation going into my gate. Or I can even bring the frequency of our LFO slower and slower down to a crawl where it takes a long time to go up and then down. So that's the idea of a voltage controlled amplifier, is you can send a voltage to one of the CV inputs and have it adjust the volume up, adjust the volume down. Once you got that basic concept, it's just a matter of choosing what frequency you want that to happen at and what waveform you want to choose. So right there we have a sine wave, which I'm going to unpatch. Then we have just our signal again going through the VCA. I'm going to patch into our triangle wave. Here we go. So there's our triangle wave. And then I can bring the frequency up just so you can hear what that sounds like. Or I can choose even a different waveform. I can go down to my saw wave here. Now unpatch the triangle. Now I'm going to go to my saw wave. There we go. So that's our saw wave. We'll bring the frequency down. Now I can manually adjust the amplitude here all the way down. What that means is that it's now modulating this setting rather than the setting we were previously at. There we go. Now I can bring it up. And in kind of the middle position, you're not really going to hear as much of an effect because the amplitude's at a mid-level, so pretty much you're hearing most of the original signal, so when it modulates it, it really doesn't matter how far I push the frequency of it or how low I push it. The change is very, very slight. It's not being picked up essentially. So that's the saw wave. Okay, and I just want you to hear what that sounds like and understand kind of what the controls are when we're in this VCA mode. So I'm going to patch everything. There we go. I'm patching our sounds. And that's going to actually do it for the VCA part demonstration. Just a little review before we go on to the next section. So we looked at what happens when you send a signal in here. That part's pretty straightforward. Signal going in. Once it's going in and out to our mixer, we can adjust the amplitude of that signal with our dial up here. Previously, we saw that this was actually changing the frequency of the signal going out by adjusting the cutoff of our filter. But in VCA mode, that's no longer what this dial does. It adjusts the amplitude of the signal going out. Then, in the second part of this particular demo that we did, we actually fed a modulation signal into our CV and allowed it to adjust dynamically the amplitude of our signal, rather than us have to manually stand there turning and turning our VCA. We could have it dynamically change it, and you could adjust the frequency of our LFO, have it go faster or bring it down, have it go slower, as well as a mild overall loudness here on our A101-2. So that's going to do it for this demo. Hope it was useful and hope it clarified a few things on the VCA mode portion at any rate. So stay tuned for the next one where we look at the combined mode, which is going to be the middle mode of this particular module. So hope you're with us then, and thanks for watching.